What if the real reason you keep waking up at night has nothing to do with your bladder at all? Picture this. It's 2:13 a.m. You're finally asleep after a long day. And then, your eyes open. You feel that familiar pressure. You get up, walk to the bathroom, handle it, come back to bed. And just as you start to fall asleep again, it happens again. 2 times, 3 times, sometimes even more. And by morning, you're exhausted, foggy, irritable, craving sugar just to get through the day. Most people think, it's just part of getting older. But what if it's not? What if your body is trying to tell you something much deeper is going on? I remember a patient who came in completely frustrated. He said, "I don't understand this. I'm not drinking that much water at night, but I'm waking up constantly." When I asked how often, he paused and said, "At least 6 times. Some nights, 10 times a night." Now think about what that does to your body. Your sleep gets fragmented. Your hormones get disrupted. Your blood sugar becomes unstable. Your mood changes. Your focus drops. And over time, it starts affecting everything. But here's where it gets interesting. When we started digging deeper, the issue wasn't his bladder. It wasn't his prostate. It wasn't even how much water he was drinking. The real issue was something almost no one talks about. And once he understood it, everything changed. Let's break this down. Frequent urination at night, what many people call nocturia, is often treated like a bladder problem. But in many cases, the bladder is just the messenger. It's not the root cause. Because your body doesn't randomly wake you up multiple times at night without a reason. There's a signal behind it. And one of the most overlooked signals is insulin. Now stay with me, because this is where things start to connect. If you look at people with diabetes, one of the most common symptoms is frequent urination. That's not a coincidence. That's a clue. Because in diabetes, and even before diabetes, there's often a condition called high insulin. And high insulin changes how your body handles fluid. Here's how it works. Your adrenal glands produce hormones that help your body retain fluid at night so you can sleep without interruption. But when insulin levels are elevated, it interferes with those hormones. So instead of holding onto fluid, your body starts releasing it, which means more urine, which means more trips to the bathroom. And this doesn't just happen in extreme cases. It happens in people who have what's called insulin resistance. And here's the problem. Most people don't even know they have it, because doctors usually test blood sugar, not insulin. So you can have normal glucose levels, but elevated insulin behind the scenes. And that silent imbalance doesn't just sit there quietly. It starts pulling strings all over your body. Your sleep quality changes. Your hunger signals change. Your fluid balance changes. Even your stress hormones begin to shift. Now think about your typical evening. Dinner, maybe a snack, maybe something small while watching TV, maybe another bite because you're not that full. Each one of those moments sends the same signal. Insulin goes up. Even if it's labeled healthy, even if it's low calorie, even if it's just a little something. Your body doesn't see snacks the way you do. It sees events. And every event tells your system, we're still in feeding mode. Now here's where it becomes a problem. Nighttime is supposed to be repair mode. Hormones shift. Your body slows down. Your system prioritizes recovery, not digestion. But if insulin is elevated during this window, that entire process gets disrupted. Instead of deep, stable sleep, your body stays slightly activated. Not enough to wake you up immediately, but enough to prevent full shutdown. And when that happens, your fluid regulation system gets thrown off. Normally, your body conserves water overnight, but elevated insulin interferes with that signal. So instead of holding on to fluid, your body starts releasing it in waves. That's why you don't just wake up once. You wake up repeatedly, because the signal never stabilized. Now multiply that over weeks, months, sometimes years. This is why people say, it keeps getting worse. Not because something suddenly broke, but because the pattern has been building slowly in the background. Insulin resistance doesn't flip on overnight. It's the result of repeated signals over time. And as it builds, your body becomes less efficient at handling those signals. So you start noticing patterns. You eat, and you feel tired. You go too long without eating, and you feel shaky. You crave quick energy more often. You gain weight in places that are harder to lose. All of these are pieces of the same puzzle. And once you connect them, everything starts to make sense. So the real question becomes, how do you interrupt that pattern? This is where most people overcomplicate things. But the truth is, the fix starts with removing friction, not adding complexity. The first step is to stop eating late at night. Not gradually, not eventually, directly. Because this is the strongest signal you can change immediately. Take whatever you normally eat at night and move it earlier into your day. Then create a firm cutoff. A clear line your body can rely on. No food after that point. Because once that signal stops, insulin finally has a chance to come down before sleep. And that changes everything. The second step is timing your fluids properly. This is where many people make the mistake of focusing only on restriction. But the real strategy is distribution. Hydrate earlier in the day. Give your body everything it needs when it can actually use it. Then ease off as you approach bedtime. Because when hydration is high early and insulin is low at night, your body naturally stabilizes fluid balance. But when both are high at the same time late in the evening, you create internal pressure that has to be released. And that release shows up as repeated wake-ups. So instead of fighting the symptom, you remove the trigger. And when you do that consistently, the system recalibrates. Not because you forced it to, but because you finally gave it the conditions it needed to work correctly. The third step is to lower your overall carbohydrate intake. Because carbohydrates, especially refined ones, drive insulin higher than anything else. And when insulin stays elevated, the cycle continues. Now this doesn't mean extreme restriction overnight. It means gradually shifting toward foods that keep insulin stable. More whole foods, more healthy fats, moderate protein, less reliance on sugar and processed carbs. And finally, one of the most powerful tools you can add is intermittent fasting. Not because it's trendy, but because it gives your body time to bring insulin down naturally. When you extend the time between meals, your body shifts into a different state. A state where it starts using stored energy. A state where hormonal balance improves. And over time, that can dramatically reduce nighttime urination. Now here's what's important. This doesn't always happen overnight. For some people, it improves within a few days. For others, it takes a couple of weeks. But once the underlying mechanism starts correcting, the change can be dramatic. People who are waking up 4, 5, 6 times a night start sleeping through the night again. And when that happens, everything improves. Energy, mood, focus, metabolism. Because sleep is the foundation. And when you fix sleep, you fix more than just fatigue. Now think about this. What if the problem was never your bladder? What if it was a signal from your metabolism, asking you to change how you eat? That shift in perspective changes everything. Because instead of chasing symptoms, you start addressing the cause. And once you do that, the symptom no longer needs to exist. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.